a reader, either today or years to come, will have an appreciation of where we were and where we are today, and what happened, what were the causative factors that drove all of this, what were the obstacles, and so on and so forth. And back to Shehu Moazu, we are not creating the impression that before now there was no rice production in Nigeria. But what has changed and what is still changing?
What has changed is this. You see, before the rice revolution, he has earlier said, access to finance is a difficulty. Good agricultural practices is a difficult, it's not there. Good extension services is at its lowest ebb. With the coming of the revolution, the common Nigerian farmer now has access to quality inputs. He has access to good agronomic practices. These are the two factors that can make a better agricultural practice. Good input, good agronomic practices. In addition to that, he is taught, he is made to understand, to believe that, look, this thing you are doing is a business. And they have accepted that. So they have transited from being subsistence farmers to now commercial farmers. These are the things we are saying.
Okay, let's return to Musa. In addition to what he said, you have something to add with respect to what has actually changed in the mechanism, of this rice revolution. Because as Kingsley pointed out, it doesn't mean that we didn't have rice production, before this revolution. But perhaps something spectacular happened, especially the empowerment of the farmers, inputs and what have you. And again, I want to add this to the question. Was there any assistance, from outside Nigeria, to power this revolution? That powered this revolution? Was there any kind of assistance either from any IFAD or any other world organization that has to do with agriculture?
Yeah. Part of what has really changed is that there's basic economics. It's a demand creates supply. Now, when we were developing, I used to work with CBN and in development finance. So when we were developing the Anchor Borrower program and we were engaging local farmers, I can remember an old man in Bakolori in Zamfara State. When we said, the federal government is proposing to provide you financing and inputs. His pushback then was, why do we need your funds when the rice we have produced? Then the bag of paddy rice was 3,035. He said the ones we have produced have not been bought. There was a glut then, because like I told you, even the processors were dependent on importing brown rice. So only the local artisanal millers were patronizing our farmers, and then their offtake was so minimal. So his pushback was, we really don't need it, because see what we have produced, we can't sell. Now, for starters then, part of what the initiative was to offtake the glut. So we mopped up those funds. But you see, before the end of that season, this same farmer that couldn't sell his paddy at 3,035, the price rose to between 9 and 12,000. Between that 2015, 2016. So there was that huge market, because part of what this Anchor Borrower assures, in fact, that is the origin of the name Anchor. This one is anchored on the market. That's, you have assured demand. So that was what happened. So these farmers now, what's basically changed is that while he was struggling then to sell the little he had produced, now first, like I said, he got quality inputs. So around that season and since then, his output increased nearly 3 times. And then the price too had increased nearly 3 times. In fact, in those localities, consistently, you realize the largest, because for the average rice farmer in the north, the sign of his wealth is trip to Hajj. So you realize that a lot of them, the huge population of those going for Hajj since there have been these farmers. In fact, at a point, our former coordinator of this program was telling the governor of Kebbi in jokes. He was asking him to set up, anytime he's setting up a hospital, he should set up additional orthopedic wards. Then he was wondering why. He said, because a lot of your farmers, apart from going to Hajj, anytime the small farmer gets, some cash, he goes and buy motorcycles. And then they were, falling and breaking limbs, So, like I said, fundamentally, that's what has changed, that there's market. There's market and there are returns on investment.
Baba, let's again start off with production.
Yeah.
There were always rice producers, rice growers, if you like, whether swamp rice, upland rice, or otherwise. Ebonyi State, everybody knows Abakaliki rice. And well before now, there were at least 2 rice mills somewhere in Ebonyi, one by the state government, the other one by a private person. And if you mention Kebbi, at least 3/4 of the local government areas in Kebbi, those local government areas were under rice cultivation. So what is it that triggered this revolution in terms of saying, I know that you've talked about, Anchor Borrowers program, get better seedlings, get more finance and so on and so forth. Elsewhere in the country, what were the driving factors?
Yeah, well, like I said, basically in business, the driving factor is that whatever you produce has a market. So even in other places, the fact that part of it, of course, advocacy, because in other places, apart from Ebonyi that you said, in the south, virtually everywhere in this country you can grow rice. But because then he has mentioned one of the things that the farmer is being oriented to see it as a business. So these are business opportunities. Before it's agriculture, so it's just for subsistence, and then of course he has no other means of livelihood. Now there is motivation. So this advocacy is going around the country that even in your places, because the dependence was food comes from the north, so only mostly 3 crops are grown there. But everywhere you can grow rice. So that's sensitization. There are farmers, and new and old farmers are being sensitized to come into this because there is money to be made, and you have the land. Most of them were already farmers, just that, like I said, because traditionally it's not rice they used to produce. But even in other places where they produce rice, now that the opportunities are there, the market is huge, and then you can make money. They have also been sensitized to go into it. So these are some of it. Advocacy has been consistent. So virtually every now and then, and that's why I told you about the numbers from where we started and the millions that are now members, because they are come to appreciate that money is to be made, there is job opportunities for them and their youth, and then they come in drops.
I think one point you made that's clear is that rice can be, farmed or produced in any part of the country. But I want to ask Shehu Mwazu, who's the director of operations at Rice Farmers Association, what is happening in the southern part of the country with respect to rice production? Because it does appear that the pyramids that we are celebrating all came from northern part of the country. Do you have members from the southern part? How are they? How are they taking this advocacy? Has it really taken its root into the southern part of the country?
Yeah, it has indeed. Last year we were in Ekiti. We have launched the Ekiti pyramids. And I assure you that in every state of the Federation, including the southern states, we have a large followership, a large membership of this thing. The problem our southern counterparts are having is the area of land clearing. You see, the swamp areas, clearing them is a very, very difficult task for the common man. It is capital intensive. In fact, land clearance issue is one of the basic reasons why Governor Fayemi was awarded yesterday, because he has initiated after queuing into the program, agreeing with the program, he has initiated a program of land clearance in his state. He's clearing vast land for the common farmer to go in and farm rice, and that is what we are doing. So you see, that is why we are advocating for state governments to help clear lands for the people where it is difficult for the common man to do it. Similarly, we are telling the rich people, the big companies, that when you clear land and invest, the proceed is definitely coming back. You understand? In the south, they are ready, but land clearance is an issue. But I think with the coming of NALDA too is going to help a lot in that direction.
There's another thing I'm wondering about, Kinsley. They say it's over 1 million bags yesterday displayed in different pyramids. how were they put together? You know, how were they sourced? We learned is paddy rice, isn't it?
It's paddy from
And
the
yet
repayment.
to be milled, isn't
Yeah,
it?
it's yet to be milled. It's repayment from farmers, and it cut across all the states of the federation. This thing we did, it took us 3 months, and it's fully documented. Every day, whatever we do there is documented.
Now, what happens to the paddy rice after the
Well,
celebration?
what we are going to do is there is a program designed between Refund, CBN, and the millers. Millers will be, paddy rice will be sold to millers at a discounted rate, so that they will mill it and sell it to the market at a discounted rate. This is where we believe that it's going to
Bring down the cost
price.
of rice.
Yeah.
Show Moazu, I want to go back to the question my colleague Kirian asked earlier, which has to do with the geospatial spread of rice cultivation in the country. I'm just wondering, there's virtually no state where you cannot grow rice in Nigeria. There's virtually no state.
No state.
Yeah,
Every state has
fine. So in Edo State, for instance, when we were growing up, there was Ekboma rice.
Yep.
Ekboma, that's in the Central Senatorial District and parts of the North Senatorial District. People grow rice. I don't know what the state is. Anambra, for instance.
Very well.
Anambra also grows rice.
Yeah.
In Bayelsa, they have swamp rice production. And Ebonyi State, I mean, their Ebony rice had been in the market for well over a decade. So what, apart from land clearing, what other interventions have come to these other localities to lead to a spike in rice production?
You see, every intervention that the Anko Borrowers offers goes to every Nigerian that requires it. You see, the culture of rice cultivation is just picking up in the southern part of Nigeria. I'm the vice president of the South-South, Rice Farmers Association of Nigeria, who is from Cross River, supposed to have been here. You understand? I think he will have been, you will have been more convinced if he is here and is the one that is telling you this. But I'm telling you, there is an equal opportunity for every Nigerian that said, I want to farm rice, as far as the Anko program is concerned in rice production.
No, I have no reason to be skeptical about what you would say or what you might say, but what is needed to boost rice cultivation in the southern part of the country? That's what we are saying. You were giving the example of Cross River, and that every Nigerian who needs it, of course, gets to access it. Is it that there isn't sufficient, Baba, you're talking about sensitization, which is critical. Is it that there isn't sufficient sensitization, or is it that other southern governors are not following the footsteps of Dr. Fayemi, who has now launched the land clearing program, or just what is happening, or they are into cultivation of other crops?
Honestly speaking, they want it. We have been sensitizing them, but that issue of land clearing in the south is a hindrance. The common man is too much for him to clear a hectare of a swampy land, honestly. That is the problem. And the Ankuwa program, as a program, does not have land clearance as a
component.
As a component.
What are the components of the Anchor Borrowers program, Baba?
Incidentally, apart from the components of the Anchor Borrower program is mainly funds production process, not capital investment, because I mean the tenure of the facility is expected to be repaid in either one season or maximum of 3 seasons. But you see, land clearing is an intensive, capital-intensive operation, in which case, I mean, it's beyond either the association or the farmers to undertake. But in order to enhance that process, the CBN has introduced what is called Accelerated Agricultural Scheme. And that provides opportunities for both the state governments and private individuals to access medium to long-term funds that will be used for land clearing. So state governments have access to that facility. And of course, like I said, even private entrepreneurs that are keen enough, that appreciate the numbers, can access these funds. And then they have a tenure of 7 to I think 9 years to repay that facility. Now, what we expect is for state governments and others, like sensitization is ongoing, but state governments have to take that lead. And of course, too, we also need to emphasize the issue of synergy, in terms of targeted agricultural programs and incentives. That synergy mostly, the attitude of, keeping to yourself. For instance, there are several other forms of subsidies. Now, ordinarily we expect that if there is synchronization between the associations, the anchor grower, and the Ministry of Agri, so that you target it, because the next issue that has been recurring is the issue of the price. You say there's rice. Why is the price high?
We'll come to that. We'll come to that. I just want us to be, again, I want to have a better understanding of it, just like our viewers and those who may be interested in getting into this. Anchor Borrowers Program, what are the critical components? So it's finance, short tenured finance. Yeah. It doesn't involve land clearing. Apart from that short tenured finance, there's some marketing element.
Of course, that's what,
yeah. So let's
now that's what I say. Apart from those inputs, they have mentioned that every farmer is assured of offtake, because you see, in the first place, the farmer that gets this facility repays his loan with paddy. Now, immediately you submit what is due for paddy, for loan repayment. The next thing that you have, or if you submit what is due, whatever you have at that your farm gate can be off-taken, so that the farmer doesn't have to take the trouble of moving them into the market. So that's another component. So refund, because part of the requirements for this anchor grower is that the farmer contributes what is called equity, maybe around 20%. If it's in cash, the refund has that in cash, and then from its other sources. So once maybe you are entitled to submit 7, 10, or 15 bags. The rest, if you are interested, refund buys and pays you. So at your market, at the farm gate. So those are some of the components. And of course, these are relationship with the millers, and then the coming of the CBN in terms of providing some form of subsidy. These are all part of the comprehensive component. And of course, the service providers and the producers of, the inputs. Now, because of the massive opportunity of this anchor grower, there has been an uptake in their production capacity. Take, for instance, fertilizer. You asked about international relationship. Of course, we have IFAD and others supporting, but we have this relationship with the Moroccan government about providing phosphates for fertilizer. If you see, before now, we are almost totally dependent on imported fertilizer, but the number of blending plants across the country that have been revived, because even that was provided for, there were facilities that were provided by the CBN for the revival, reactivation, and even setting up of additional fertilizer blending plants. So there has been increase in local content. Of course, the spiral effect is to create additional job opportunities along those lines.
All right. Thank you, Mohammed Babali. We'll get into the nitty-gritty of this conversation much later. And again, to understand why the southern part of the country perhaps is not making the required contribution in this respect. Now, we've just been joined by another guest, Peter Dama. Peter Dama is the national chairman, Rice Millers Association of Nigeria, Raymond. Mr. Dama, good morning and welcome to the program.
Good morning. Thank you.
Yes, in the rice production chain, millers play a very critical role. And yesterday, Nigeria celebrated pyramids that are displayed here in Abuja, and we understand that these are paddy rice. As a rice miller, let us get your own take on this rice revolution. Is there a rice revolution? And if yes, what has it come up with in terms of impact in the entire rice production chain in Nigeria?
Yes, there is a rice revolution. This is simply because right from when this administration came on board, there had been emphasis on the cultivation of rice, and the volume of rice that we have been producing and milling has increased. So there is. You would also take into consideration the fact that the government has taken certain steps to ensure that smuggling of these goods are not allowed, although we still have some aspects of it coming into the country, but it has been reduced drastically. And as such, Nigerian farmers, Nigerian millers, particularly in the rice sector, are happy with this development. So it has increased our volume. And as at yesterday, you would have seen the pyramids we saw that are being made available to millers. And we believe that if this thing goes round, it will further increase the volume in the revolution.
Well, Mr. Peter Tama, give us a sense of further details of this revolution. Because earlier, Muhammad Ali Baba, who is with us in the studios here, said that in the past, millers depended mostly on imported rice paddy. Are millers having enough local paddies now to mill? And if so, what are the future prospects?
Well, you see, our country, our nation is a very large one. We won't say they have enough, but they have, at least for now, they have. And I believe that that would lead further to the production and then add to the revolution. We cannot say that every miller would have, but then what we have seen, the major ones who are active in the field would definitely gain from it. So we believe that, production would get higher and higher by the day.
Let's remain with you. In the past, many Nigerian families relied on foreign rice because of what they believe they are destoned, the quality is high, which of course is not true after all. Now that the nation is depending solely on local millers of rice, let us get to understand the capacity of Nigerian millers in terms of quality of rice made, because some people are still complaining that in some certain bags of rice, Nigerian made rice, you still find stones and other particles that shouldn't be there.
Well, we in our own sector, particularly in our own association, our millers have destoners, and we do destone our own rice and clean it up. There are medulla millers who are yet to acquire some of these machineries, to destone their rice. But we are encouraging them. And in fact, some of them, the modular millers who do not have this equipment, we assist them by accepting their goods for destoning and cleaning. So our own rice is very clean, very fresh, very nutritious, and without impurities. And in fact, I wish you were there yesterday to see the volume that we have produced, what we have supplied, and what we have displayed for Nigerians, to see. And in fact, there was so much rush for people who want to pick up or buy off these products because they have seen what we have as quality products. And I believe that as we continue with the encouragement of government, with the the engineers we now have amongst us who are fabricating the stoners and polishers, we would get there. We will get very good products. And I want to inform you that, in fact, we, in our own sector, we have subscribed to the Sustainable Rice Platform, SRP, which is, the only way that you can produce your rice sustainably and, in fact, get it exported. Nigeria has already gotten into, that forum, and the chapter in Nigeria would soon be launched. And our association is heading that chapter. We are having, some kind of support from the Federal Ministry of Agriculture, and at the same time from CARI, a development partner, to ensure that the quality of our products are proper and acceptable internationally.
Well, Mr. Peter Dama, just before we come back to our studios here, what kind of support are millers getting in the value chain for rice production?
Well, as you can see, we have been in discussions with the CBN. We have made the development finance department. They have assisted some of the millers, and they are still assisting. We have been discussing, talking of getting some kind of CRG, so that we will be able to offtake some of the parties that you see. They are working with us, negotiating with banks, in order for us to be able to offtake the party that has been supplied into the field. Apart from that, we have development partners who have also been helping with trainings here and there, and getting us involved internationally with other, rice councils. We have also been calling for the establishment of a rice council in Nigeria, so that a lot of, our rice matters would be taken there and, dealt with, just like what is, in the offing at the international level. So these are the kind of assistance we have from both the government and then the, development partners.
All right. Thank you indeed. We'll get back to you in the course of the program. Let's return to the studio here, where we still have Shehu Mwazo, Director Operations, Rice Farmers Association of Nigeria, and Mohammed Ali Baba. Now, that's a point he raised, with respect to sustainability of what we have on hand at the moment, because from all you have presented, it appears that it was the Anko Bora's initiative and other interventions that led to where we are today. Now, without Anko Bora's program and other interventions, because we wouldn't know exactly whether the program is going to continue via Central Bank of Nigeria, or whether now farmers, now you have been gotten to a level where you can now sustain yourself. How do we, should we worry about the sustainability of this revolution going forward?
Honestly, I don't think we have much to worry about. You see, before the coming of Anko Borowa program, the financial institutions, the commercial banks, are not akin to giving out loans to agriculture, as it is happening today. So with the coming of the Anko Borowa program, they are now having a set of belief that the agricultural sector of the economy is an area whereby we can invest. So we believe with the knowledge the financial institutions have gathered so far through the Anko Borowa program, I think it is going to be sustainable. And I don't think if there is, on the aspect of the government, any government that will come and say, let's go back and start importing rice. Because what of the investment that are put in place? So many people have invested in the primary production. Billions have been invested in the processing aspect. So the idea is the financial sector will see it as a viable venture and will continue. And probably the next government will come and continue with it. But I believe...
Why I ask this question is the fact that before the Anko Bora's program, which was made possible by the Apex Bank in Nigeria, as you rightly pointed out, commercial banks, we are not akin, to giving out loans to farmers because they are afraid of the repayment of such loans. And farmers had this issue of having access to loans. If Anko Bora's program comes to a halt, how would your members have access to loans from the commercial banks?
That is what I'm saying, that there is a comfort zone or a sort of belief in the Nigerian farmer that the primary financial institutions, which are the commercial banks, there is an interface. We don't deal directly with the CBN. We deal with the primary financial institutions, the commercial banks. Like we, in our own case, we are dealing with Unity Bank. The funds are provided by CBN through Unity Bank. So now with this arrangement, the commercial banks are having comfort that also we can participate in the agricultural sector. So we believe even if the fund ceases from the government, because of the experience they have acquired and the confidence that has been built between them and the Nigerian farmer, they will continue to provide loans and for the production.
All right, Sheikh Boazu and the other guests, we're going to have to take a short break now. When we return, we continue with the conversation.
Finally, the hero of Nigeria's democracy has arrived. He shall usher us into a new phase of development, peace, and prosperity. He is the father of the new Nigeria, His Excellency President Muhammadu Buhari, GCFR. Welcome to another season of giving Nigerians hope yet again. We are sure of a great future for both ourselves and generations yet unborn. We look forward to your leading us as a nation into our manifest destiny. Though the challenges against us as a people are many, we know that your leadership shall set us on the right path to our greatness. A new dawn beckons on us all, and having you as our president is a precursor to this. Thank you for believing in Nigeria. This message is from the Nigerian Television Authority, NTA.
The digital switchover project, which is commonly referred to as DSO, which entails television channels switching from analog to digital broadcasting, is one of the biggest projects embarked upon by this administration. Branded as free TV, offers its viewers about 60 digital channels, including sports, music, movies, and news. The federal government has licensed about 23 set-top box manufacturers. 7 of them have started production, employing several thousands of people. We've made it now compulsory for all stations in Nigeria to only broadcast productions made in Nigeria for products which are produced in Nigeria.
We are all Nigerians. Against all odds, we shall and must remain united. We may have our challenges, our problems, and setbacks. However, together we shall overcome them all. What doesn't break us shall make us stronger. This is the mindset that shall bring peace, progress, and prosperity to our beloved country. Do not let tribal and religious sentiments govern how you think, act, or feel. Don't be influenced by those who want to destroy our precious national unity. Everybody who's a Nigerian is your brother and your sister. This is the mindset of the new Nigeria. It is also the mindset that we must all adopt. Let us support each other in creating the Nigeria of our dreams. This message is from the Nigerian Television Authority, NTA.
The Ministry of Works and Housing has the responsibility to help improve the quality and the quantity of the road infrastructure assets, which are the roads and the bridges and the highways. At the moment, we have over 13,000 kilometers of road network under repair, reconstruction, or rehabilitation out of the existing 35,000 kilometers of federal road network. These 13,000 kilometers are comprising about 850 different contracts which the ministry superintends across Nigeria. We are fulfilling the mandate of our ministry to expand the connectivity of Nigeria's states and by extension the towns and villages through road transport.
All right, you're welcome back, and it's still Good Morning Nigeria, reaching you live on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. Mohammed Ali Baba, who of course works with the president of RIFAN, Rice Farmers Association of Nigeria, is here in the studio. Earlier you were getting into pricing. The rice revolution in Nigeria, is it a costly revolution? Because at the end of the day, people ask themselves, how much is a bag of rice today?
Well, we wouldn't say costly. It's just the pricing is related to, generally, in business, pricing of every item is related to the cost of your production. Now, appreciate the fact that there has been, the economy has been inflationary. So a lot of those inputs, particularly the ones we've not been able to substitute, are still depend on importation. And we know what has happened to the value of the forex, the dollar that we depend on, So I think the expectation that because it's locally produced, automatically the price will come down. We have to factor in the cost of production. And perhaps rice is getting the front burner attention because it's the most commonly consumed, produce. If you contrast the increase in the price of rice with other agricultural products, you realize that rice has the least increase in pricing. But because it's, like I said, basically it's the most staple food across every table in the country. So it takes this front burner and even the attention we're paying to it.
How would you tell the purchaser of a bag of rice in the market? Because the growers grow, off-takers off-take, millers mill, bags of rice, millers mill and polish, and the bags of rice get to the market. I say this is made in Nigeria rice, nutritious, XYZ. And you place your price tag on it. And in some instances, we are still having imported rice. Let's be clear about that. Versus imported rice, Nigerian rice is more expensive. How do you explain that to a purchaser? Sure.
I'm sorry, I still cannot say foreign rice is cheaper in Nigeria because still Nigerians still prefer the foreign rice. But what I'm saying is this, you see, for everything that you have to do for sustainability, for development of your country, there is a cost attached to it. Let me give you an instance. When the mobile telephone is introduced into Nigeria, we were buying a SIM for between 30 and 50,000 naira. Today, you are paid by the companies to use their SIM cards. So this thing we are saying about the food security of a nation, definitely at the beginning, there will be challenges. Nobody is saying there is going to be a smooth ride. No. There must be challenges, and we have to surmount those challenges. Part of those challenges is the initial low output into the system. Then gradually it will stabilize and the prices will collapse. You understand? So this cost is one of the sacrifices that every Nigerian has to do, which I believe at the long run is better for the country.
Okay. And I don't know, Kieran, Ali Baba, earlier you were saying that, rice growers, when they produce their paddies, the prices were low. And then when they were asking them to take finance or to get inputs, they were resisting and said, look, our produce that we harvested in the past, look at them, they're all lying here. And you seem to be extolling the fact that suddenly, there are off-takers and the price is going up, They are buying motorcycles. Some of them are going also on pilgrimages and so on and so forth, just spending money on consumption. There's a critical thing that we also have to bear in mind. That's why I asked whether this is a costly revolution or otherwise. At some point in Nigeria, we were heavily dependent on cement importation. And if you recall, in the 1970s, the congestion at Apapa ports was a result of the cement armada. Yeah. But ultimately, we got out of that. And now we are told that we have self-sufficiency in cement production. Where we were importing cement, how much was a bag of cement? Today, a bag of cement is around about 4,000. And yet, we are having, we boast that we can also export cement. What are the lessons that we can learn from that cement cost so that the one in rice, it doesn't, suffer the same fate as it were?
Like I said, part of the lessons, you are comparing the price of imported versus local. I bet you, if those importation will come through the post, there will be nearly twice the local production. Every imported rice you find in Nigeria is smuggled through Benin Republic. And why do they take that route? Because they avoid both the duties and the levies that are applicable if they come through the Nigerian ports. So it's the subsidy is actually in terms of the lost revenue that Nigeria has, and then of course what do you call it, the revenue that Benin Republic. Those are the subsidies that makes any imported rice that comes in, maybe cheaper. Now, part of what, if we truly sincerely want Nigerians to eat cheap rice, the governments will have to talk about maybe subsidizing this production. Otherwise, so long as they are left to the market forces, just like I said, when they started, the price was low because, nobody was buying. Now, once there is increase in demand, naturally, it's basic elementary economics that the prices will go on until, of course, we will reach that, because as the prices were going, more and more will be attracted into it because they've seen business opportunities. And as more and more come into it, of course, that will impact the price. That's elementary economics. Now, if we must, just like we said...
That hasn't arisen in the case of cement.
No, in the case of cement, of course, contrast then what was the value of the Naira really vis-a-vis dollars. Even the ones you are taking.
The critical element in cement production is limestone. And cement factories are sited close to the sources of limestone.
But how about the machinery, the labor, the operations? Of course, we've just reviewed our. In fact, I was making a joke now. Yeah. I say, we've been complaining of unemployment, meaning there is oversupply of labor. Why did we have to increase the minimum wage? Ordinarily, if it's left to that same basic economics, once you have too much supply of labor, we should be talking of lowering the minimum wage. So I'm saying it's not automatic. The minimum wage was increased because the cost of labor itself has to be appreciated in response to the realities of the market. So it applies to every product, just like labor. Ordinarily, now we should be talking... what we are saying is that if we must, Nigerians have to come to terms with it, because we say we are promoting agriculture as a business. And then you still want the farmer to go and produce and come and subsidize it for the consumer. Because that's what you're asking for.
Let's look at...
Erase the point. Yeah. See, let's clarify, because the aim is the sustainability of the rice revolution. Because if you say that smuggled foreign rice is available in the market, and the buyer goes to the market and he finds that the smuggled rice is cheaper for him, over time, the buyer may be incentivized to continue to buy the foreign rice. And if there's no purchase of the local rice, despite all the advocacy and so on and so forth, then you begin to have high inventory amongst your rice producers. What happens to the revolution?
Good. Part of what we're taking here, he has mentioned the MOU we had with Benin Republic. When Nigeria closed its border, part of it is to teach them lessons of the fact that they have decided to become the conduit for smuggling into Nigeria. So now they have realized the futility of continuously undermining the economy of the big brother. So part of the agreement that we've had with Benin Republic and other neighboring countries is to stop allowing because they know that it's smuggled, which undermines our economy. Because if those, like I said, if those importers have to, ordinarily they are supposed to use our routes. But even if they went to Benin Republic, those goods are supposed to be merely transit goods. They will come to the land border and pay the duties and applicable duties, so it will impact their price. So the Benin Republic have realized that now. And in order to come into the good books of Nigeria, they, of course, are stopping every contraband, every item Nigeria declares contraband from entering Benin Republic and getting smuggled here. Now the payback is this MOU we're entering, so that we will help them develop their own rice economy. And then they will now export in the spirit of ECOWAS and the African Free Trade Agreement. They will export legitimately, because only goods that originate from African countries are supposed to come in and enjoy those, policies. So that's part of the understanding. So increasingly, we're tightening the noose on smuggling. But like I said, once we get to, for instance now, under the oil dispensation, before the coming of this government, you are aware of the GES. Okay? Now, under the GES, the state government, federal government subsidizes inputs by 25%. The state government subsidized by 25%. So the farmer automatically has this subsidy to enjoy. That is gone. So by the time, if truly Nigerians, we've been struggling about the fuel subsidy. So for Nigerians to get cheap, cheap rice, perhaps that regime has to come in so that the farmer is relieved of the cost. In which case, the market will, of course, be saturated then, and then it will impact the price. Increasingly, too, when we get into perhaps increasing local sourcing of most of these inputs, because, for instance, now the pumping machine is almost 100% still imported. Some of these chemicals are still being imported. That, of course, will pass on. And so long as you don't recover your cost of production, you won't go into that business. So every person that produces will have to recover the cost and then make his gain. Those are basic, elementary, factors.
Okay. Well, I think let us not be on this for too long, because demand and supply, determines the pricing of any commodity or any item. But I think Kingsley was concerned about the fact that, look, now we are talking about a revolution. That means that we have rice in abundance. Yet, the price is still on the high side. But from the economics that you have explained, that in due course, sustainability, will now get to a point where rice price will drop. Just like you use the issue of SIM card, your chosen card. I understand that quite well, and many Nigerians understand that too. But because rice is a staple food in this country, everybody wants to see how come foreign rice is cheaper than this. Many families will go for it because they are cheaper and what have you. And you have rightly explained the reason why, because they came from an illegal source. Therefore, those who smuggle the rice, they just get they've already made their gain, by mere dodging to pay, the due they're supposed to pay. All right, there's this issue of sustainability that you mentioned, and that has to do with also ensuring that more farmers join the queue, and that was why I was concerned about sustainability of the revolution, for us to remain at that level. Right now, how would this development attract more young farmers if the anchor borrowers does not continue? How would the young farmers now key into rice farming to sustain this revolution that we're talking about? Both of you can also.
So one of those, part of the objective, apart from producing, part of the objective of this anchor borrower program is financial inclusion. In the past, of course, the average farmer who even approach, he doesn't have access to the bank, so he will even approach them for loan. Now, under this initiative, one of the requirements is that the farmer that will participate must have a BVN. And along with the BVN, he has an account now created for him in the partner banks. 3, we're also encouraging the formation and development of group farming, the group cooperatives, cluster farming, and things like that. And increasingly, once you have that, you have identifiable and maybe viable business proposition for a group, because the average farmer that goes one by one, the banks will find him unattractive. But if you have cluster or a group of farmers under a cooperative arrangement, they have a volume enough business for it to be worth the while of these banks. So long as they perform, and with the BVN and account, the performance of their account is known to the banks. So the expectation is that over time, and of course, one of the initial challenges, he was asking about the pillar of anchor borrower. One of the key pillars then was, capacity building. Because part of the challenge we had since the oil boom, both the government and the banks have turned their back on agriculture. So the banks don't even understand agriculture. So that's why they consider it risky.
Okay.
So with the knowledge acquired now.
I will pause it here because of time is against us here. But I want to get to Peter Dama once more on the issue of pricing and the role of millers in this direction. I wouldn't know how much you charge for milling a bag of paddy, for instance. And the thought here is that perhaps milling is also part of why the price of rice is on the increase. What's your take on that?
Now, before I comment, I want to, first of all, draw your attention to the fact that the prices of goods and services all over the world has gone up because of the dollar rate, exchange rate that we have in this in the country. Again, I also want to point or draw your attention to the fact that most of this rice that is being smuggled into Nigeria that you claim it is cheaper than our locally produced rice are rice that are being subsidized by the foreign countries for them to be exported to other countries. And as such, sometimes when they land at our own seaports right into the country, they come in at a lower rate. But in spite of that, I want to bet you, because on daily basis, we take rates of what is happening in the market. The foreign rice is not as cheap as you claim that they are. Nigerian rice is still very cheap. Cheap in the sense that it goes for between 22 to 24,000 naira, as against the 30 to 35,000 naira that this foreign rice, do cost in the market. Now, on the issue of milling rice, the cost, you cannot determine that cost, immediately. This is simply because on the day or at the day you collect or you purchase your paddy from the farmer, sometimes it is between 24,000, 25,000, and then the following day you don't have electricity in order to mill. You may have to go on diesel. So you see, on daily basis you have changes in terms of costs you to mill or produce your rice. So the average cost, per bag might be between 500 to 1,000 naira, depending on the day of your production, whether you did it with light or you had to, get diesel to run your machines. So these are some of the problems that we have, when it comes to milling.
All right, Peter Dama, thank you very much. Back to the studios, Shehu Muazu and Alibaba. Well, sustainability is a critical factor so that we don't look back and say, there was a time when Nigeria was self-sufficient in rice production and rice consumption. How do we get over the apparent stage of advanced subsistence that we are in now? Because it looks like the rice we are producing now, we are consuming almost immediately. I'm asking this question because there are silos all over the country. Here in the Federal Capital Territory, somewhere around Kwale, you have massive silos. In Berlin, Kebbi, capital of Kebbi State, you have 100,000 metric tons of site capacity for silos, grain storage. How much of our rice is getting into the strategic reserve that could also be used as a price stabilization mechanism when prices go haywire?
Kingsley, you see, right now as we are passing through a process whereby in the past we have depended heavily on importing food to feed ourselves. We wake up one day and say, look, we need to feed ourselves. And we are on that process. As at now, we are at the level where we eat what we produce. The sustainability issue is the issue for all of us. We, as ordinary farmers in Nigeria, we have played our part for coming to this level to say we are producing what Nigerians eat. So it's left for us now as Nigerians, for the business people. Honestly, the business community must queue in because it is only mechanized production that will reduce prices because of the labor aspect of it that will be removed. Secondly, the millers too. They have to come in. Millers should not entirely depend 100% on sourcing their rice from the market. They have to establish farms to at least produce 40% of their feedstock. So these are issues that will have to be continuous.
I think you made a point here, that millers should as well farm. They should also own their own.
That's called backward integration.
Backward integration
Right.
is a condition. That was the
Backward
concept.
integration.
And because the point this raise is very pertinent, because if you don't have reserve on a rainy day, it's going to be very difficult. If you produce and just consume,
that's advanced subsistence.
So it's going to be a problem. But again, I think from what you have said, sustainability is the key word.
Yeah.
All right. So you want to come in there?
Yeah, I was saying, but the original concept, this anchor you're seeing, the original concept was actually for millers to do a grower. That was the original concept. But you see, because of the template, the import-dependent template, they didn't have the capacity to do massive outgrower scheme. That was why both the government and the
Private sector
association were brought in to fill the gap. Because when we started, for instance, there was a miller that was targeting 25,000 farmers, and they started with 500. So what would we reach that level? And so that's why ultimately we had this version where the state governments were, CBN gave money for them to support their farmers, and then ultimately we had to come to the associations. So we expect that template, there has to be enough incentives for both private sector and particularly millers to engage in that backward integration.
And that means sustain the rice revolution. Yeah. Gentlemen, we'd like to thank you for being our guests in our conversation segment on Good Morning Nigeria today. Muhammad Ali Baba, Special Assistant to the President of Rice Farmers Association of Nigeria, RIFAN; Shehu Muazu, Director of Operations of the Rice Farmers Association of Nigeria; and Mr. Peter Dama, who is National Chairman of the Rice Millers Association of Nigeria. Peter, thank you for being with us. And by the way, Peter Dama is a retired Director of the Federal Ministry of Information. Deep thanks for your insights this morning. Okay, so it's Good Morning Nigeria, and we'll take one of our segments before we call it today.
Sudanese have shattered shops and barricaded streets with burning tires and rocks while staging angry rallies to protest against one of the bloodiest days since the coup derailed the country's democratic transition. Many say the civilian anti-coup mobilization might be taking a new turn in Sudan as the Forces for Freedom and Change, an influential civilian bloc, call to start 2 days of civil disobedience as protesters barricaded their streets. This is coming after security forces on Monday opened fire, killing at least 7 people as thousands marched against the army's October 25 takeover. The protest came as Washington wraps up pressure in a bid to broker an end to the month-long crisis in the Northeast African nation, with top U.S. diplomats expected to arrive the capital, Khartoum, for talks.
Time for sports news.
The flames of Malawi, though not too hot to handle, burnt hot enough to almost cause yet another upset to a top-ranked Senegal side at the ongoing Africa Cup of Nations. Senegal, who have so far had a poor run of form in front of goal, despite the